Hello and welcome. My name is Jennifer. I am sitting here now with Ontario's Transportation Minister, the Honourable Stephen Del Duca. Along with his role as Minister, he also represents Vaughan as a member of Provincial Parliament. Today we are here to talk about the Toronto-York Spadina Subway Extension. Thank you so much for your time.
My pleasure, Jennifer. Thank you.
So let's jump right into it. 6 subway stops across 8.6 kilometers and more than a decade in the process. Tell us about the Toronto-York Spadina Subway Extension.
So the morning of Sunday, December the 17th, that first train is going to leave the Vaughan Metropolitan Centre Station at around 8 o'clock in the morning. I'm going to be on that train with my young daughters. I'm really looking forward to that. I want them to see what their transit future is going to look like here in this region. And I keep calling this the single greatest transit achievement in this region in my lifetime. I've lived my entire life in the Greater Toronto and Hamilton area. And the reason I say that is because for the first time ever, subway trains will be leaving the 416 and going up into the 905 into York Region. And for the first time ever, of course, as well, we'll have a TTC subway connection to York University. So it's a really thrilling time to serve in the capacity of both Minister of Transportation and also as the MPP for Vaughan.
Like you said, it's the first subway extension to cross municipal boundaries, which is groundbreaking, essentially.
Absolutely, it really is. I'm just on that note, I'm really fond of saying right across this region that gridlock doesn't respect municipal boundaries, it doesn't respect area codes or postal codes. It's a regional challenge, and it needs a regional solution. And this, the opening of the Spadina Subway Extension, is a classic example and a really wonderful example of how all levels of government are working together to actually fight regional gridlock and to do it successfully.
And so you assumed the position of Transportation Minister back in 2014, and by then the development for the project was well underway.
Yes.
So for the past 3 years, what has it been like for you in regards to your position and involvement with the project?
Well, first of all, it's been a real thrill to see the progress. The TTC is the lead agency that's doing the actual work and responsible for the contract. I've had ongoing discussions with both Andy Byford and also Josh Cole serving as the chair of the TTC Commission. So regular updates from them about how the progress has been going over the last 3 years. I've had the opportunity to go down and see the construction taking place at the Vaughan Metropolitan Centre Station and some of the others. So I've seen the progress literally firsthand. And the Premier and I were, along with others, were also at the Vaughan Metropolitan Centre Station a number of months ago to literally drive in what I'll call the last spike or the last piece or the last pin that went into the track at the north end of the Spadina Subway Extension. So it's been really thrilling to see how gorgeous the stations are, how beautiful the architecture is, and to see the progress that's being taken place firsthand has just been a real thrill for me. You
mentioned this project being one of, if not the single greatest achievement in your lifetime.
So far. We have more coming, but so far.
Of course. Can you sort of speak a little bit more on that? Why does this mean so much to you?
Well, again, it's some of it's symbolic. The notion that the subway is now going to head out of the 416 into the 905, I certainly believe and hope that this will not be the last time that we see the subway going either north of Steeles or to the east or the west. At the same time, I think it's a very strong indication of how the transit network that we're building, that will be seamless and will be integrated and affordable and reliable and accessible for the tens of thousands of commuters across the entire Greater Toronto and Hamilton area, how that's just around the corner. So whether we're talking about this Line 1 extension or we're talking about GO Regional Express Rail or the Viva BRT or the Eglinton Crosstown LRT or the Finch West LRT, and this list literally goes on, the Huron-Ontario LRT, the Durham BRT, the Hamilton LRT, we are literally as a provincial government investing billions and billions of dollars right now. A lot of it's taking place a little bit out of sight and under people's feet, so it's hard for the residents of this region to recognize that it's actually happening. But in about 6 or 7 years, the people of Toronto and the people of Peel and Durham and York will be absolutely stunned with the progress that's occurred and with the transit network that they have. And it's going to last for generations. So it's a really extraordinary time to serve in this capacity, and I'm honored to have this opportunity.
You mentioned this earlier, this connection with York University. This is the first time, essentially, that there will be a connection between York University and the existing subway system in Toronto. Why is it so important to involve the university in this kind of a project?
So we know that there are approximately 50,000 people, students, faculty, staff, who travel to the York University campus virtually every single day of the week. In fact, I'm a graduate of Osgoode Hall Law School, so I spent some time coming from the north end, coming from Woodbridge down to the York campus for a number of years, about a decade ago. And to have this link by subway means fewer buses on the surface routes. It means fewer cars coming into this part of the region, which means a couple of things. One is we're going to help with commuter flow. We're going to make sure that it's an easier commute for people, a more reliable commute for people, so that more of those students and the faculty and staff will leave their cars at home. They'll take the subway, they'll take public transit. That helps with our economy, it helps with our quality of life, and it also helps us fight climate change by reducing our greenhouse gas emissions. So it is literally a win-win-win all the way around. And the York campus is growing. We've seen more things that are getting built there on a quarterly basis. We know that there's even more demand for giving people that seamless opportunity to travel to and from that anchor, I'll call it that anchor tenant if I can, or that anchor entity on the Line 1 extension. So it's really great news for all the students, the faculty, and those future students who will want to get to that campus in years to come.
Of course. In regards to ridership, are you aware of about how many people would be traveling along this extension per year, for example?
So I've been told that somewhere in the neighborhood of 20,000 commuters will be using the Vaughan Metropolitan Centre station. I don't know specifically what the numbers are for York University, but I would say with 50,000 or so people, students, faculty, and staff coming to that campus every single day right now, I think we can be fairly confident that the ridership will start strong and it will continue to grow. The one thing I'll say about commuters in this region, whether it's the GO service or the TTC or any of the other municipal transit agencies that we have, when more service is deployed, people are thirsting for it. They want to see more frequent GO trains. They want to see those trains going in both directions. They're excited about Regional Express Rail that we're in the process of delivering. They're really thrilled about this. When people see a reliable and an affordable and accessible solution or alternative to taking their car and being stuck for hours in gridlock, they grasp at it. That's why it's so critically important for us to not only build for today, but to plan for tomorrow and to keep building, keep those shovels in the ground and keep producing more positive transit outcomes for the people that we're proud to represent.
And so when it comes to population density within parts of the GTA, for example, the number of people per square kilometer in cities such as Mississauga or Markham, for example, tend to be a little higher than the population density in Vaughan. So why is the subway extension into the city of Vaughan so necessary? So
if you take a look at what's been happening over the last 5 to 10 years in Vaughan, in anticipation of the subway arriving there, it's been nothing short of remarkable. I've lived in the GTA my entire life, but I lived in Vaughan now for close to 30 years. And if I think back to my first few years in Vaughan, what the area around Jane and Highway 7 looked like then, and what we've already seen with the substantial changes, we are literally building a brand new downtown city core. There will be thousands and thousands of new people living in and around the subway station at Jane and Highway 7, and also thousands of new jobs that will be created and will be housed in that same vicinity in the Vaughan Metropolitan Centre. So right now, we have a relatively new office tower that's already up, the KPMG building, and it's an award-winning building. It's stunning. There's direct access through the basement from that office building down to the subway platform. There's been announcements for another new office tower, PwC. Will be the anchor tenant there. We see new condos up. We see the Expo condos, for example, just across the street, more than 30 stories high, and more condominiums being built in the area. So I would say to you that the transit-oriented development that we so desperately need right across this region, this is a live example. It's almost like a real-life experiment that you see literally being built up around Jane and Highway 7. And I know that the residents of the area are very thrilled about the fact that it's moving in the right direction. And because we have that connection between the Line 1 subway extension and the Viva BRT right at Jane and Highway 7, there's literally no excuse for anybody to have to take their car through that area. You can hop on a bus from Markham and be at the Vaughan Metropolitan Centre station, head down on the subway. You can do the same thing from, frankly, where I live, a little bit further west in Woodbridge. It's gonna transform how the people of that part of York Region and the broader part of York Region commute. But I would tell people, keep your eyes on what's happening in Vaughan. It really is fascinating to see. And I can't think of another example in this region, maybe the North York City Centre in that area, when we saw more development take place in that corridor along Yonge Street. I can't think of anything that's been as exhilarating to watch as a local resident as this new downtown city core being built up literally in front of our eyes because of the subway.
So you mentioned this idea of doing something that will sort of make residents proud. And so as the Member of Provincial Parliament representing Vaughan, what do you hope this initiative means for your constituents?
Well, first of all, I think it will demonstrate to residents living in Vaughan and right around the 905 that after too many years of not really having any concrete options or alternatives except to drive their cars, so we see that gridlock is choking our highways and our roads. It's making us late for appointments. It's depriving us of time with our loved ones. It's hurting our economy. I think this is a real breakthrough and will be a real eye-opener, not just for Vaughan, but the entire 905, that we're all in this together. That because you invest $1 in York Region, it doesn't mean you're depriving $1 from Toronto or from any one of the other regions. We are all in it together. We have to build those regional solutions. We have to keep investing. But most importantly, prior to 2003, for far too many years in this region, there was chronic underinvestment in transit infrastructure. So today, as a government, we're playing catch up, but we're also playing keep up. And we have to play keep up because there's explosive population growth in this area. And to me, that twin challenge of both trying to catch up and keep up simultaneously is tough, but that's fundamentally why our government has made the choice to invest billions of dollars, $16 billion alone in the GTHA over the next few years to make sure that we have that transit network. And again, I want to stress, we are tantalizingly close as a region to seeing what that goal looks like, what that outcome looks like. And I know, again, by 2023, 2024, 2025, people in this region will wake up. I often say, when my 10-year-old daughter turns 17 and she's leaving high school and she's contemplating what she wants to do with her life, she wants to go to college, she wants to go to university, she wants to develop some other career path, she'll have commuting options that as a lifelong resident growing up in this region, I never had. And she'll have those options because of the critical investments that we're making right now.
Touching a little upon my next question is this idea, you have mentioned that you have 2 daughters, and so that's essentially the impact of a project like this, is that growing up, they're going to have these opportunities that you didn't once have.
Yes, 100% true. I mean, I've often in speeches told the story about how I turned 16 growing up in Etobicoke. Turned 16, got my 365, what we used to call it at the time. The week after I turned 16, got my full driver's license a few months later. And so I've largely been, although I've proudly taken transit at different times in my life, I've largely been a car-dependent commuter as someone who grew up in Etobicoke and then moved up into the 905 when I was about 17. And that's a commuting pattern that's very familiar to anybody who grew up, particularly in our suburbs. Well, we're changing that. We're changing that because we know that next generation coming up wants to be less car dependent. They recognize that while cars are sometimes essential, having 2 or 3 or 4 per household is not really the right way to go. Being stuck in endless hours of gridlock on highways that are choked with traffic is not positive for the economy, not positive for their quality of life. So I think there's tons of support out there for making sure that we do keep building and that we build in the right way and the right place at the right time. It's what our government is focused on. And again, my daughters, both of them, 10 and 6. I forgot to mention the 6-year-old as well, but we want to make sure that she has those same options that they both have, if not as many more opportunities than I had as a commuter growing up in this region, and I'm confident that they will.
What is the importance of having an integrated transit system within the Greater Toronto and Hamilton area?
Well, we know that as long as people feel that their travel is seamless, that it's easier, that they can use, for example, their Presto fare card, so they can hop off Mississauga Transit or the My Way and hop on to GO and then on to the TTC or out to Durham, wherever they have to go. As long as it's seamless and it's integrated and it's affordable, that's really important as well. And it's reliable, so that if it says a bus is showing up at a certain point in time or a train is showing up at a certain point in time, that it reliably does so, more and more people will realize how easy it is, how comfortable it is to travel by transit, and I'm convinced more will make that choice. And we see it already. We see that there are millions of people who are tapping every single day with their Presto fare card. We are now fully deployed right around the GTHA, including on the TTC and in Ottawa. It's really thrilling to see what kind of uptake we've had with Presto so far. And I think that there are literally limitless possibilities for how we can make that travel more integrated, more seamless, and more affordable for our commuters. And I think we'll have updates on that in the near future.
Of course. Any final thoughts that you'd like to add?
Yeah, just talking about fares and talking about how we're making sure that they are accessible and affordable and seamless. I will also say that we announced a few weeks back that starting in January, for the people who transfer every single day or any time at all who transfer between GO Transit and the TTC, or between the Union Pearson Express and the TTC, our provincial government is investing to make that connection more affordable. So right now, you would literally pay two fares, a GO fare and a full TTC fare. Starting in January, just after the TYSSE opens up, starting in January, the provincial government's investing to actually drop the TTC portion of the fare in half. Now, what does that mean in real terms? There are about 25,000 people who make that transfer every single day of the working week. If you're one of those commuters out there, whether you're from Mississauga or York Region or Durham, or you're in the 416 and you're commuting out to the 905 and you do that transfer and you do it every single working day of the week, it means that you'll save over $700 per year in your transit fares, and we're doing that at the same time as enhancing service right around the region. That's a great bargain for our commuters. They deserve it, but I think credit to the Premier and the rest of our team here at Queen's Park for having the courage to make that decision and to make commutes far more affordable for those thousands and thousands of women and men across the region who are choosing to take transit.
You can find Minister Stephen Del Duca and his two daughters at the Vaughan Metropolitan Centre on December 17th to mark the opening of the subway extension, one that is both Presto Card and Wi-Fi enabled.